Hey everybody, welcome to the Focus Garage. Mike here, and in today's episode, I'm going to tell you the things that I don't like about my 2013 Audi S4. Now, I did catch a lot of slack in my Focus ST video saying that I was nitpicking at things, and that, it was things that was outside of what the designers could change about the car and everything like that, but, everybody has their things that they do and don't like about a vehicle. So I'm going to do the same thing about this car that I've driven for about 3,000 miles and kind of given you my overview here of things that really drive me crazy. So, to start off, the first thing that I don't like about this car is that there is no next song or previous song button on the steering wheel. Any modern car in the last at least 10 years probably has this feature, and this car does not have a way to do that. So there's no button on the steering wheel to go forward or to go back in a song or to the next song. But what's even crazier about that is there's no dedicated button to do that anywhere in the car. So you would think, by the stereo here there would be something like that. There's not. The only way to do this is through the volume button on the right-hand side of the shifter. Now you might think that's okay, but guess what? It gets even crazier. This volume button is super, super small, and it shares the functionality of forwards or back for the song, and it's like right by the passenger. So it's in a very, very awkward spot, and it's on this kind of like chintzy little button, and that's the only way to go forwards or back in a song. Now, for people that own these cars, I'm sure they're like, well, there's a motor, the steering wheel, blah, 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 blah. You can go forwards and back using the steering wheel. However, you have to go into different settings. You have to be on a playlist, and then you have to scroll through the playlist and then click the song. There is no simple next or previous button. So that's frustrating. That's one of the first things that, I'm not the biggest fan of about the car. Number two, something else that I'm not the biggest fan of about this car is there is no supercharger noise. This vehicle that I've got right now is totally stock. So stock exhaust, stock intake, everything like that. And if I didn't tell you that this car was supercharged, it's a 3.0 V6 with a root-style blower right on top of the engine, you would never know that this car is boosted. So under heavy acceleration, there is no supercharger whine, no intake no intake noise from the supercharger, anything like that. So that's something, with a boosted car, if you want to hear supercharger noises, you've got to go to the aftermarket and get some sort of intake where the filter's open, and it'd be easier for you to hear the supercharger whine like that, because stock, you're not hearing anything. It's a very, very quiet ride, with the exception of something called the Soundicator that a lot of Volkswagens and Audis have, which is pretty much similar to the Fords with their supposers, where it takes intake resonance and a little bit of like exhaust noise and kind of plumps it into the car. Something that I like about it in this car is that you can fully turn it on, enable it or disable it right through the infotainment system in the car. So you can have the noise when you want it, but you can also turn it off when you don't want it, which I feel is pretty nice, giving you kind of the best of both worlds with that there. But no supercharger noise, it's no fun. I get that, it's a luxury car. It doesn't want to be loud and obnoxious and in your face, but having a supercharger is one of those things that if you've ever heard one before, it is pretty fun, and you get kind of used to the noise and you do want to hear it. Another thing I do not like about this car, and this, like I said, is kind of nitpicky stuff, is this center console here. This is probably one of the most useless center consoles I've ever seen in a vehicle. It's not very wide, and it's super, super shallow, so it's pretty much pointless aside for the fact that it does have an outlet in it, so you could plug in like a cell phone charger or something like that, and you can maybe toss a couple napkins in it or something like that, but outside of that, I can't see anybody really doing much with that center console there. So again, not a big deal. You've got a big glove box over there, you've got door storage and everything like that, but how does something like that get overlooked? Something so simple, but such a big deal there. Moving right on to the next item here, something that I do not like about this car, and this is something that if you do research on the forums, you can learn a little bit about. This is a B8.5 S4. It shares a lot of parts with the B8 S4, and the B8 S4s have hydraulic assisted steering, and the B8.5 has electric assist steering, and it's variable speeds. So in the parking lot, at low speeds, the steering is very, very light, easy to maneuver, but at high speeds, it's heavier, the car feels more sporty. Now that's all good and dandy. However, a lot of people will talk about this, and there is even a TSB, a technical service bulletin for this item, and my car has had it performed, but it still exhibits these issues where the steering can feel kind of like numb and vague. And it's obviously going to be impossible for me to demonstrate on camera here, but what I mean by that is, if you're going down the road and you go to make kind of an evasive left or right maneuver with the car, you won't really have feedback in the steering wheel, but the car will still make that maneuver. Kind of like there's this disconnect between you and the road. And, since it is electrically assisted, there was a technical service bulletin where they update the way the car does that. However, I still find myself having that same feeling with it there occasionally. Like I said, this is not something that I find myself happening all the time. It's usually on like the highway if I've been doing like 60, 70 miles an hour for a while and I go to like kind of change lanes or something, or if there's a curve in the road, you kind of feel like you'll go to turn and make that maneuver, but you don't feel the resistance in the steering wheel, but the car is still doing that. So it's something a little bit strange, but like I said, it's not a huge deal. The steering definitely does feel, very, very good at most speeds. It's just one of those things that does happen occasionally. Again, not a huge deal. The final item that I am not the biggest fan of with this car, and like I said, this is all very, very small nitpicky things, is the way the fog light operation works in this vehicle. So, in most modern cars where you have automatic headlights, if you turn the fog lights on while the headlights are on, the car will remember that the fog lights are on. So every time you turn the car on or off, or the headlights go on or off, the fog lights will come on with them as long as you have the fog lights turned on. This vehicle forgets every single time. I really like the way cars look with their fog lights on. I know it's dumb. I'm sure a lot of people will be like, well, if there's no fog, your fog light shouldn't be on. Whatever, that's not the point. I like the way the fog lights look, and in this car, you do have to turn them on every single time. Even though the headlights are auto and everything like that, if you do not remember to turn the fog lights on, you'll find yourself, when the headlights come back on, that your fog lights are off. So, a lot of pressing of that fog light button there, even though the headlights are automatic. Again, nothing huge. So that's really much going to wrap up as far as the main things that I'm not the biggest fan of with this car. Like I said, I've had this car, about 3,000 miles now, and I've gotten a lot of seat time on some back roads, some highway trips, everything like that. And let me tell you, there's a lot about this car that I do like and that I am a fan of. Those are just some of the little nitpicky things so far that I've found myself kind of irritated by or frustrated by. Not the end of the world. In the comments below, let me know what you think. Am I just being crazy? Am I being stupid? Do you own one of these cars? Do you know somebody that owns one of these cars? What are your kind of, little nitpicky things about it? Like I said, this car is a lot different than my Focus ST was, and I'd like to make a comparison kind of to that car to show, what exactly, I'd like about this versus like driving that car, because there are differences. But that's going to about wrap it up for this one. Like I said, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Have a great day.